And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show will give you some straight up gameplay and, of course, our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and I just want to say thanks for your patience on this one. Had to spend some time getting through the game and we're a little bit late, but today we're talking about Kena, Bridge of Spirits, or I actually learned it's pronounced Kena, Bridge of Spirits after playing the game. The usual disclosures here, we've been playing a review copy here, and this footage is captured on PlayStation 5 and is spoiler free. The game is also available on PC, so you know. Now, because reviews were a little late all around and the fact that the game was delayed a lot and we didn't know too much about it, there was a bit of worry in the air, but thankfully, I think Bridge of Spirits is pretty damn good. It's simple, it's straightforward, good old-fashioned video game with a couple of flaws, and it's not the longest, but I think it's worth experiencing if you like games like this. Also, I mean, it's a damned visual feast. Look at it. But anyway, in this game, you play as Kena, who is a spirit guide whose job, passed down from her fathers before her, is to guide people to the spirit world. Now, she comes to a new land as the game starts. It's like a big old region with a town in the center of it that suffered tragedy, and pretty much everyone died quite some time ago. So you venture through the game exploring, fighting, and questing to find artifacts to then bring together to a point to free story-specific lost soul characters and help them pass on. It's a charming and fairly light adventure with nice dashes of darkness and can be pretty somber. You know, kind of similar to the indie game from last year, Spiritfarer. It takes the concept of somebody guiding souls or the dead and kind of manages to find new and interesting ways to depict it. Because how it all goes down in Bridge of Spirits is not really like you'd expect. Like, at first you might be like thinking it's typical video game stuff, but it's actually done really nicely with a bit of a somber tone, like I said, and with minimal dialogue. In fact, I would say not nearly enough, really. Like, at least for the main character, Kena. She's capable and she's dedicated, but doesn't really say too much and doesn't come off strong or memorable even with the voice acting. But really, the game doesn't spend a lot of time on her until close to the end, really. The main name of the game here is learning about this mysterious world and the people who have seemingly died in it or who are passing on, and it does a great job, but I wish the game spent a bit more on her, especially throughout, considering her name is in the title. Even still, cool character design, she looks cool and she fights good. Which, yeah, leads me to the gameplay, the most important thing, right? The game is fun to play. If you like exploring worlds, fighting enemies, collecting stuff, platforming, solving environmental puzzles, then Kena will feel pretty much right at home with some fresh new spins on things. The world itself is surprisingly large. I was really not expecting this. It doesn't have loading screens, and it's got some really incredible vistas. There are some large distances where you can just see everything out in front of you, and it's really impressive. It feels self-contained in a nice way without too many invisible walls and, you know, some splashes of variety to it. I mean, it's all mostly green, but it shakes it up here and there. There are high mountaintops, deep caverns, farm fields, and more cool stuff that I don't really want to spoil. And, you know, just despite just being on foot in a big world, you can actually get pretty lost here and there. It's nicely designed and paths intertwine in some pretty fun ways. A lot of the game is structured around the hub town I mentioned, like it's in the middle mostly. You venture out in different directions to complete linear objectives like big story chunks, but areas are open enough to find sub things to do and sub quest things to find, and then bring back to the village and open up other little sub areas with fights or puzzles to find more rewards. Oh, plus you can fast travel to certain points too, which is nice considering she doesn't run super fast. Kena fights with a staff, with a heavy and light attack, a block bubble, a parry with that, and a dodge. You can pick up a projectile bow attack a bit further in the game that shakes things up nicely, as well as a few other surprises. Now, I don't want to spoil all of them here verbally just because I went into the game blind and half the fun for me was getting all the new abilities and tricks and stuff. Combat itself is okay at first. You know, it feels a little bit rough with the lock-on and some of the attack animations, but after an hour or so, it disappeared for me. Like, it's not the most refined combat by any means, and the hit combo can get kind of repetitive, but as you get further in, you get access to way more combat abilities that shake things up. This is in part thanks to the Rot the ROT, these little creatures, these critters from nature that you gather along the way. You can find them by exploring and revealing them, and they join your little herd, and the more you get, the more you can level up your rot level, and you can have a lot of these little guys fighting by your side. They have special attacks they can combine together and do at the expense of essentially like a point, so you can pick up another point in the environment, generally by attacking enemies, and then spend it with a cool attack. So it becomes more and more complex as you learn to dodge and parry and strike at enemies, while also juggling all these new abilities and the special abilities powered by the rot creatures. Now, by the end of the game, you're like a killing machine. I didn't realize until I did one of the challenge chests. There are like these little spots in the game where to open a chest, you have to do a quick challenge, like kill 20 enemies in a certain period of time. When you really got to stress all your tools at your disposal, I was like, oh damn, this game, the combat's pretty cool and intense, and they give you a good amount of stuff and it all works. You know, you might not even realize how much you have at your disposal because the skill tree seems pretty small, but everything has a really nice use case. Nothing is really throwaway or to be ignored. It's all pretty well thought out, and I appreciated it as the combat escalated with more complicated enemies that required different strategy and different tools, and some pretty decent boss battles, believe it or not. There are multiple difficulty levels too, which, you know, if you bump it up, which I think you should, you're gonna need to learn the perfect parry that much better, just because on normal difficulty, the game's fairly easy. The parry feedback and how it works doesn't feel the smoothest, but it will be useful. Pro tip over. Anyway, all of your abilities, including the super smooth and satisfying projectile bow, all have clever uses in combat, but also in the environment. Puzzles are mostly like strictly environmentally based. Find this hidden thing, figure out the proper sequence of this to open up this, or move this boulder, but you know, with dashes of using the little rot creatures to your advantage to open things up, as well as different magic tricks and tools like I mentioned. The game handles them pretty effortlessly, and I got stuck on things in like a kind of nice, satisfying way, if that makes sense. You know, it all is really simple and limited, but still manages to give you the occasional like, aha moment, and that's good. You're doing all of this to, say it with me now, get stronger and get more stuff, like every video game ever. Yeah, but it's clean and simple here though. You earn these, I think, karma points to spend in a tree to get more abilities, like, you know, a charge attack or more arrows or other stuff I don't want to spoil that are kind of fun. Exploring to get stronger is fun and rewarding. You know, the incentive is good here. The other thing that you find a lot of that you pick up in the world while exploring is the shop currency, which is nowhere near as encouraging for exploration because all you can really do with it is buy little goofy hats for all your rot friends. Now, it is kind of funny running around with them all behind you with like leaves on their heads, acorn helmets, scary masks, cowboy hats, all that, but it's not necessarily making me like dying to explore every crevice, you know? So it's just 50-50. I like it because the world is cool and the upgrades, but you know, the other main portion of it, the currency stuff for all the little hats for my guys, I barely care, but that's just me. It's just cosmetic stuff. Hey, at the end of the day, at least there's no microtransactions involved. But the other issue I had with the game was the platforming. This is hard to explain. You know, it's a really subjective feeling more than anything else. Just the jump, the way it controls and animates, and how you grab on ledges, all of it feels just ever so slightly off. You know, not quite as smooth as you'd expect, just given the polished, gorgeous look of the game. Sometimes you don't land on a ledge because her jump always feels just ever so slightly too weak for any length. You're gonna always be double jumping, and even then, sometimes still awkwardly miss a ledge or a grip for no reason. It's not a deal breaker at all, you know, it's just something I wanted to point out. Some people might not even notice it. Otherwise, the platforming and puzzle stuff, especially timing stuff towards the end, does still manage to be pretty thrilling most of the time. Also, the game is pretty top tier in terms of visuals and music. You know, the score feels epic, orchestral, whimsical, and just movie-like. And the visuals, I mean, like, damn, YouTube videos always make games not look so great, so you might not believe me here. But like on a good TV with the right settings, this game is pretty killer, with a bold color palette and really sharp character designs, really expressive stuff. The pre-rendered cutscenes are downright shockingly good. But even when the game kicks back into the game and it's running in game, it's really, really impressive. It's got that animation studio feel to it, and that certainly is intentional. It comes from some of the people involved in the game. It really shows and just adds to everything. And like I always say, like, that graphics aren't everything, but with something like this, it definitely does elevate the experience, you know, the whole charm. And really, it is a charming game that I thought was satisfying from beginning to end. I recommend it 100%, but with a caveat. Know that this might take you like 10 hours, depending on how you play and how much you explore. Could be 9-ish, could be 12 hours, I don't know, all over the place. It's not a full price $60, $70 game, so it has that going for it. Just know that the game doesn't overstay its welcome, which I don't mind personally, but if you only play a few games a year and you're looking for like a 100-hour game, this ain't it, chief. That being said, if we're not talking dollar value here, maybe if you decide to wait for a sale or regardless, whatever, it is still absolutely worth experiencing. Now or later. Personally, I say go now, but I get it. Also, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes next from this studio, Ember Labs, because this is a really good debut. I mean, like, they've had smaller projects in the past, but this is a cool game, man. But this is a before you buy. You probably know how this works by now. I give you some pros, some cons, a bunch of information, and some personal opinion, but now I want to hear yours down in the comments. This game is out in the wild. We're all probably playing it at the same time. If you picked it up, you maybe blasted through it like I did. I want to know what you're thinking. How you feeling about this one? And if you haven't played it yet, are you still considering it? Have reviews overall swayed you or turned you away? Do you like these types of games, these simple action-adventure fun platformers with nice charm? Let me know, man. If you enjoyed this video though, and maybe it helped inform you, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really helps us out and we very much appreciate it. But I'm Jake Baldino. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jake Baldino if you want to yell at me. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.